Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to be guiding you through on how to color correct a dark photo inside of Adobe Photoshop. So here inside of Photoshop, we have a picture. This is my friend Katie. She's posing up against the sunset over in her yard is what it looks like, and it's a very good shot. It's just, there's a lot of dark details hidden within the photo, and we can see that there's a red, strong color cast on the photo as well. And that can be easily fixed in just a few steps. So the first step we're going to go ahead and do is duplicate the background layer. You can right click on the background layer and choose duplicate. Or you can also push Control and then J and that'll duplicate it as well. Next thing we're going to go ahead and do with our duplicate layer selected, we'll go over Image, Adjustments, Shadows and Highlights. This is a really good method that I like to use when it comes to recovering dark details within photos. And I'm going to go ahead and set everything to 0. And then I'll go ahead and start with the shadows. We'll move the amount slider to the right. And usually I like to go in between 30 and 40 when it comes to adjusting the amount in the shadows. And then I'll go ahead and move on to the tone. I don't want to go too far because you can see that there's some artifacts and some clipping here and we don't want that to happen. So pull that back a bit. And then I'll start removing the radius. With the radius, you got to be careful because as you adjust the radius, you'll see that there are some halos around the edges of some of the objects within this photo, and we don't want to see that. So got to be careful with the radius. Alright, now we'll go ahead and move to the highlights. And what this is going to go ahead and do is that if there's areas within the photos that are a bit too bright or overexposed, that's going to help it bring it down some so that you can see some of the areas that are overexposed a lot better. Alright, I think that's looking pretty good there, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So there's our before, and then here's our after. Now that we got the darks areas recovered within this photo, we need to go ahead and remove this color cast. So the way how I'm going to go ahead and do that is that I'm going to go ahead and click on our adjustment layers icon and select curves. And I'm going to go ahead and use these three eyedroppers to color correct this image. The first one I'm going to go ahead and do is click on the top eyedropper. This is for the darks within the photo. What we do with this is that with this eyedropper tool selected, we're going to go ahead and click on an area inside the photo that should be black, like this dark area on the tree. Once you click on that area, Photoshop is going to tell this curves adjustment layer to make some adjustments to make that area black. And voila. So we got rid of the red color cast, as you can see, with this curves adjustments, but now it's way too green here. But that's what we got our other two eyedroppers for. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the bottom eyedropper tool. This is for the bright points. We're going to go ahead and click on the brightest point within the photo, and then that's going to turn that into a white. So we'll go ahead and pick the sun here. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and click on the middle eyedropper. This is going to be for the gray areas. We're going to click on an area on the photo that should be gray. And that photo, once we do that, Photoshop is going to tell curves to make some adjustments to turn that color to gray. So I would say this fence post looks like it should be a natural gray. So we'll go ahead and click that. There we go. That's much better. Alright, so here's our before, and then here's our after. So that looks much better there without the with and without the curves. What I might gonna go ahead and do is do some sharpening on this photo. So what I'll go ahead and do is with the top layer selected, I'm gonna go ahead and hold down the Shift key, click on the background layer, and then I'm gonna hold down Control, Shift, Alt and then E, or Command if you're using a Mac. And that's going to merge all three layers into a single layer. I'm going to go ahead and desaturate the layer by holding Control, Shift, and then U, or Command Shift U if you're using a Mac. I'm going to set the blend type to Overlay. I'm going to move over to Filter, Other, High Pass. I'm just going to go ahead and choose a radius that I think looks appropriate for this picture. I think maybe 2 would be enough there. So I'll go ahead and hit OK there. And now I'm going to go ahead and click on our mask icon here. That's going to create a layer mask for this layer. And I'm going to invert that mask by pushing Control and then I. That's going to erase everything that we just did. But I'm going to go ahead and take our brush tool, and I'm going to paint on areas within the photo that I would like to be sharpened. And if we have black, it's going to erase the areas that should be sharpened. And if we choose white by clicking on these 2 arrows here, it's going to go ahead and add to the photo areas that should be sharpened. So I think the trees and the fence and the grass look good while it's sharpened. I'm going to also go ahead and set the opacity to 100% as well. Alright, so there's our before and after with the sharpening. You can also take the opacity down a little bit too, just to get it to blend in and look a bit more natural. And now what I want to go ahead and do is add some sun haze, so that it looks like that there's some sun reflecting off of her and shining into her face as well. So I'm going to do the same thing as before. Click on the top layer, hold down the Shift key, click on the background layer. That's going to select all the layers. Hold down Control, Shift, Alt, and then E, and that's going to merge all layers into a single layer. And then the next thing I want to go ahead and do is I'm going to add a gradient. That's going to be our sun. So I'm going to click on our layer adjustments icon, and I'm going to go ahead and select gradient. And to make sure that we have a circle, because the sun is circular shaped, I'm going to go ahead and set the style from linear to radial. And now we just need to change the color of that so that it represents our sun. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the gradient tab here. And I'm going to go ahead and choose 2 solid colors to make a gradient. I'm going to go ahead and click on the black tab here, and then I'm going to click on the black color palette. And I'm just going to go ahead and select like a yellowish color to be our sun. And then for the white here, I want this to be the color of our shadows that's being illuminated from the sky. So I'll go ahead and click on the white tab here, and then click on the white color palette. And then I'll give it like a nice deep bluish kind of color here. Hit OK, and then OK. I'm going to go ahead and choose OK as well. And then I might just go ahead and switch the blend mode to soft light. But I want to go ahead and move this gradient so that it's in line with the sun. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on the gradient layer. That's going to bring the properties back up. And now I can go ahead and click and drag this anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it over to our sun area. Hit OK there, and I might also decrease the opacity as well, just so that it's not darkening the photo too much. So maybe right about 40 looks about good there. Alright, and then the next thing I want to do is like add a bit of a flare here just to add more like a haze to this photo. So once again, I'm going to make sure the top layer is selected. Scroll down to the background layer, hold down the Shift key, and then click on the background. Merge all layers together by holding down Shift, Control, Alt, and then E. That's going to make it all into a single layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to Filter, Render, Lens Flare. And with our lens flare selected, I'm going to go ahead and drag it over to where the sun is. Hit OK. And now I want to go ahead and make some adjustments to this layer without affecting the background. But the reason why I did it on this layer is so that I can see where I want to move our sun access to. Now that we got that taken care of, I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer. And then I'm going to create a new layer by clicking on the new layer icon. And I'm going to fill it with black by holding down Alt and Delete. And then I'm going to go back to Filter. And then I'm going to select Lens Flare. And this has all the options saved from our previous procedure when we were adding a lens flare. And I'm going to go ahead and set that to screen. And I want to get rid of some of these prisms here just so that it does not cover up too much of the photo. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the mask icon. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is just go ahead and switch to black there so that way I can erase some points. Make our brush a bit bigger here, and I might just take the opacity down some, maybe to about 40. And then just start erasing some of these prisms just so that it is not distracting us from the image itself. Alright, and now what I want to go ahead and do is change the color of this so it looks more like the sun. So I'm going to create a curves adjustment layer, and I'm going to click on this down arrow icon so that way it's clipped to the lens flare layer. And we'll go ahead and switch from RGB to blue, drag that down to give it some yellow. And then maybe go to the red, drag that up a bit to give it a little bit of red. And go to RGB and then maybe brighten it up just a tad bit. Alright, there we have it. Here's our before, and then here's our after. We went from a dark photo with a heavy red overcast to a recovered photo with a nice sunset haze to it. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more tutorials on Photoshop or video editing with DaVinci Resolve or other software. And if you have any suggestions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to smash that like button as well. Thank you so much, everybody.